Welcome to the Mike Litton Experience Podcast. Mike has over 31 years experience in real estate, finance, and investing. He's passionate about being a father, a teacher, a realtor, an investor, and a leader. Everyone has a story, and our passion is to help them tell it. And now, introducing the host of the Mike Litton Experience, Mike Litton.
So what can you expect from the Mike Litton Experience? You can expect stories that will inspire, motivate, advice that will sharpen your focus, and expert information on real estate, finance, and market conditions. Right? And say,
Absolutely.
Look, here's how you cover your backside.
Yep, they're
If you
not going to do
this,
that.
Yeah, if you approve this, here's your fallback.
Yep, don't expect them even in their own business. So I wrote up the before and after, 2 pages. One is the cost to staff an airport and process passengers today with humans, how you're doing it today. And then the after. The cost minus, not even included purchasing all these kiosks, what would it cost if you would do business with me? Yeah. And I could save them millions of dollars in every airport by replacing all those people with check-in kiosks. Then they said, whoa, this is interesting. But at first I was like, how do they not know this? They just don't. Yeah. So it was me putting together what I always tell business owners now is you should have 2 photos, your life before me and your life after me, right? And show how significantly you're changing that person's life and making it better. Right. And that's the way I started to get some sales closed. Yeah. And then once you get momentum, then you shift gears a little bit and you sell competition. So I'm selling cost savings as the lead, the lead idea to the first airlines. But once they have it, I call their competitors and I say, hey, you're getting your butts kicked by your competitor. I'm sure
so-and-so just ordered this. Yeah. Are you in, right?
Yeah, that made it easier once I had some momentum.
Yeah. And it's the human nature thing of, wait a minute, I'm missing out on something, right? Before it was like, I'm not going to think for you. I'm not going to think for me. I'm not going to think for the company, right? Correct. I've got lunch waiting for me, or I've got this meeting, or I've got whatever.
You're exactly right.
And I think the thing that's most important about what you teach is people are like this. And what you're doing is you're coming to them and going, okay, I got to get in here. Yeah. I got to get in this focus, right? And the way I get in this focus is I figure out the best way to prepare everything for them. So then they look at it and go, oh, that's a no-brainer. That makes sense. They
can literally take that document to their boss and put their name on it and get the credit for all I care, right?
Right.
They look good. And then, when you were talking about getting in there, it's understanding what they're focused on. So the example is when I wasn't having luck with some of the airlines and airports about the cost savings, but when I walk in realizing that, well, here's literally an example. I went to airline A and I got them finally to buy. Yeah. Then I went to airline B who said, you were already here and we told you we're not interested. And I said, almost literally, Mike, I said, okay. I said, we'll see what your boss says to you when he finds out your competition announced this and you had a chance to sign for it and you told me no. And they're like, wait, what? And I said,
what?
Your boss will be proud of you. Well, they weren't responding to the business opportunity. They said, hang on a minute. And they were talking to each other with me in the room. Yeah. And they were literally saying, well, it's not going to be good. How are we going to explain that to the boss? So they were worried about their job, not what I was selling. Yeah. But I knew that. Yeah. So I shifted gears to say, what do these people value? They value their job and they value their boss saying you're doing a good job beating the competition. So I shifted tactics and said, good luck explaining to your boss why your competition has that. You don't, even though you had a chance. And they're like, you know what? We'll take it. Hang on one sec.
Okay. So welcome to Sales 101, right? Because in order to sell, it's not as much about your product as it is about what that person that's making the decision, specifically how they're going to cover their backside.
Exactly.
Right? So how are they going to look? How are you going to help them look good to the higher ups? How are you going to make them look good when it's time for their review? Because really, that's what they care about.
Yeah, Mike, right? I actually did this in one of my companies. One day, one of our customers called and she said, I just got promoted. And a big part of the reason was because of your product.
Yeah.
So I called all my team in and I said, from now on, I said, your job is to get our customers promoted.
Yeah.
And I said, from now on, if a customer gets a promotion at their job and they are willing to say, they call and say that our products or you, my employees, your service help them get promoted, I'm going to give a cash bonus to everybody here.
Yeah.
So we had a program that my employees got a bonus if our customers got a promotion and said that we were part of the reason they got it. That
Yeah.
is your job, is to help the customer get where they're getting, not just, I have my goal. I just came here to sell my product. I don't care about the customer. I just care about me and my product. That's not the way it works.
Well, that's not the way sales works, period. Right? When I
Right.
first got into sales, that's what I thought sales was. And I was certified in sales mastery with Tony Robbins, and Tony taught me different, right? And it was a mind-blowing experience. It completely opened me up to what really is going on and how you really sell. And how you really sell is you do a detailed needs analysis, and part of that needs analysis is, how do we win with you? How do we help you win, right? So how do we help you advance in your career? What can we do with our product to help you look the best you possibly can to your superiors?
Yep. And that's just a whole different line of thinking that you have to go through.
Yeah.
And a lot of times people tell me, I don't know. And I say, right, because you haven't asked.
Exactly.
Literally ask those people,
Yeah.
what can I do to help you get where you're going? Instead of you just coming in planning to give your pitch no matter what.
Yeah. I just had a situation happen the other day, and this was just last week, where this couple that I was working with were really on the borderline of being really upset. They were afraid they were going to lose this one particular property. I asked the person who was the decision maker 8 different ways. 8 different ways. They said no to me 7. On the 8th time, a different way, she finally said to me, this is what they have to do to make this happen.
Yeah.
Right? I cared more about getting the answer than I did about her telling me no. That's the difference.
Yep. That's a
You've
big
got to
difference.
ask. You've got to ask, and you've got to get really good at asking questions. Like, one of the things we're doing a real estate mastery event next week, and the real estate mastery event we're doing is live worldwide, and it's about the power of questions. So yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. So let me ask you a couple of things.
Wait, one more thing on questions though.
Sure.
Because people talk about, back in the day, everybody had to write a business plan, and people stopped writing them because they're like, why am I writing a business plan? I don't know any of the answers anyway.
Right.
And it's because they completely missed the point. The point of a business plan, you can call it something different you want, is to understand all the questions you need answers to.
Right.
I didn't write down answers. I wrote down, here's a list of questions I need answers to make this business successful.
Correct.
So it's important, like you said, to know what questions to ask and what questions that if you had these answers, you'd be better at your business.
Yeah, because it's different for everybody, right?
Yes.
Like you might go to Southwest Airlines and they say one thing about the kiosk, and you go to Delta and they say something else, because they all have the same goals in mind, but they have different ways of getting there. And your job is to identify what those are, and then figure out how your product can help them get there.
Absolutely.
That's the biggest deal, right? Okay. So just a couple of real quick questions. So
Sure.
Growing up, I think I know the answer to this, but growing up, who was the most influential person to you?
Yeah, you do know the answer. That was definitely my mother, because we live in a world where people complain about everything and do nothing about it. And my mom was never the complainer. She was always the one, just get up and go, whatever it is, I'll figure it out. So such a big influence on me.
So the software company that you started at Yale, what was the single most important thing you learned?
Probably a little bit of what you and I just touched on, which is not being blinded by your own ideas.
Yeah.
And listening better. Let me phrase it this way. I learned to listen.
Yeah.
Because when I first went in, I had ideas and I'm waiting my turn to talk to tell them my ideas. And then I realized that if I just ask them,
Mhm.
Tell me about your business. Tell me what's working. Tell me what's not. Tell me what you're frustrated about. Tell me what you wish you could do. The more I listened and stopped talking, the better my business became. So that was the big lesson I learned, is let them talk for a long time before you say anything. But I didn't start
Absolutely.
that way because I thought it's a sales pitch. I need to get in there and start selling. And I was like, no, I'm not ready to sell it all until I've done a lot of listening.
Well, and it's you've got to lay the groundwork, right? You've got to
Yep.
figure out exactly where it is, because every customer is different. Every company's different, every customer is different. There are similarities, right? But you've got to figure out what works for them, and you got to figure out how it is that your product can help them get to where they want to be.
Absolutely.
So after the kiosk company, where do you go from there?
So I've been building companies ever since then.
Yeah.
Some that worked, some that didn't. For example, on the failure side, had this idea that you didn't really need to go to the mall to buy that sweater because you have a computer and you could use this new thing called the internet. The problem was, Mike, I was too early.
Yeah.
Because people did not know what www was.
Right.
They didn't know what HTTP was. And the
Mhm.
ones that did get on the internet early were afraid to put in their credit card because they never bought anything without meeting the people. I don't know where the
Right.
store is. I don't know who the people are. I'm not just going to give them my credit card.
Yeah.
So I launched an internet company too early and failed.
Mhm.
People weren't ready, and I didn't know that. On the success side, obviously we were solving a different problem early on at Priceline. And the problem we were solving at Priceline is not for just to book a hotel room, but if you remember, we were auctioning off the empty rooms,
Yeah.
basically.
I
Name
remember
your
that.
price. You make a bid because we know the inventory, we know how many empty rooms they have that they're going to lose money on.
Mhm.
So we'll auction those off. So the Priceline days were, the early internet. So it was an unbelievable experience to be part of that whole ride. And we were one of the internet companies that actually solved a real problem that had a value equation, right?
Yeah,
The hotel
absolutely.
wins because they got rid of those empty rooms. The consumer wins because they got a room cheap. And so in the middle, we keep the spread. And so the company was back then when they were saying internet companies aren't profitable, this was actually a profitable internet company.
Yeah.
Which is why when the bubble burst, and probably 90 something percent of all the internet companies never came back, but Priceline did because it's a real business.
Yeah. So we're talking about the dot-com bubble in 2000, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I took a break from tech in the middle of all these, and did some work in media,
Mhm.
music, and then film, and then television. All startups, right? Independent production. We produced concerts and tours. Then we did some movie production. These were things I wanted to learn and experience. That's why I
Okay.
got into them. And then some television production. Then went back to do another internet company, which was called ubid.com.
Mhm.
And
I've heard of it, yeah.
I think we were one of the top 5 auction sites on the internet worldwide. And we did an IPO. We took that company public. And that was really the end of my CEO run.
Okay.
I was the CEO at Ubid. There I am again, a CEO and CEO of a public company, and doing quarterlies and stock review and stuff that I'd been no longer interested in.
Yeah.
So that was the run. I was probably a part of maybe 8 different startups over all that time. A couple that failed, a couple that IPO'd and went public, and some that were acquired. On the whole, it was a good run. But it was all about solving problems that add value to somebody.
Right.
Something somebody would pay you if you would fix it.
Perfect. So after you bid, you're at a point where the CEO thing is just not, it's just,
Yep.
yeah, right. So after you bid, you make a shift. Talk about that. Talk about what happened and what made you go into what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I, to be real, I was actually keeping in mind that these were travel companies. So I was traveling
Yeah.
a lot of the world, right? And so unlike people that are in a bubble, which most of us live, and that's not anybody's fault, but when you live in your bubble, you don't really see the way the rest of the world is.
Yeah.
But when you're out building a global business, you're seeing more of the world and you're realizing how blessed we are But the flip side of how blessed we are is how unfair life is for so many people. And it bothered me, right? I'd start another business. We sold more than one. We made millions on IPOs, stuff like that, that really started to make me just wonder about the world. Why is it this way? Why are the blessings not equally distributed? Why do I keep getting more that I didn't even ask for, right? And I don't even need, while other people are literally don't know where the next meal is coming from. So I couldn't get that out of my gut. So I made a commitment, I kind of got to the realization of the old, to who much is given, much is expected, right? And I was like, wait a minute, maybe I've received more than my fair share of blessings because I'm being trusted to distribute them.
Yeah.
And so I committed the rest of my life to giving back in exchange for being blessed. And the first thing I did the first year, Mike, was I decided that I was going to take, this was my give back commitment. I was going to do a year of yes, but I told nobody. I said, for 1 year, I'm going to say yes to anybody that asks me for help with anything for a year. I'm just not going to tell anyone I'm doing that, which means I'll make no money. I'll do no business. I won't go to my office. Wherever the next email or phone call or text is asking for help, I'll just go for a year. And my year of yes probably ran 6 straight years. That I was, literally, like one day it was an email from a young man in West Africa. Things are tough in the villages, but I have ideas. I just don't know where to start.
Yeah.
And I was like, I guess I'm going to West Africa.
Wow.
And it was far more fulfilling in any way than making money. Or I'm not pretending that I didn't appreciate those things, but this was way better than running a business.
Yeah.
When I started doing that. So it's been absolutely. So I did that for about 6 years. And then in the last, honestly, over the last decade, which includes some overlap, just been involved in building multiple nonprofits.
Yeah.
Some that I run and some that I just serve on the board of, all focused around teaching people how to help themselves and using entrepreneurs to make the world a better place. That's the focus.
That's awesome. So you make a decision. Talk about this yes year for a second. So you make a decision that you're just going to say yes. What compels you to do that? Is it the desire to give back? Is it what compelled you to?
That was my commitment.
That's not a decision everybody makes, right?
Yeah, it was a unique thing. I didn't know how it was going to go. I didn't know if it was going to last 1 year. I sure didn't think I was going to keep extending it because I was enjoying it so much. But that's what it was. I literally committed. I said, I need to actually give back. I need to go out and help people and teach people. Really, the goal was I need to teach people how to help themselves because I'm having a life that I never dreamed of because I learned how to help myself.
Yeah.
Right. The fact that it's a coincidence that skill set is called entrepreneurship. Right. Entrepreneurship's just the attitude and the skill set. It's not the job.
Yeah.
So because I developed that skill set and that mindset, I was able to live a life I never dreamed of. So my commitment was I'm going to go teach people how to be entrepreneurs so they can live the life they want to live.
Yeah.
And when you get a chance I'll give you the quick example then.
Sure.
That young man in West Africa, he was in Senegal, lived in a village where people lived in huts made out of packed mud and leaves over the top. And when I went to visit him and I went in the village and he said, hey, it's kind of hot in the African sun. Can I get you a cold drink? And I said, sure. And he said, okay, because we don't have any. And I said, why would you offer me that? And he said, just making a point.
Yeah.
And he's like, do you want water? I said, sure. He said, we don't have that either. We have to go down the mountain with buckets to get water.
Oh,
and he wasn't being mean. We were laughing about it.
Yeah.
They don't have electricity or water where they live.
Yeah.
And he said, Mr. Hoffman, I have some ideas for a business. And he said, but my real goal isn't the business. There are 20 families in 20 of these mud homes. He said, my goal is to find a way to get jobs and homes for all 20 of the families in my village. And so to answer your question, that's what was compelling. Yeah. And so I started mentoring him, launching his company and helping him. And it's many years later now, but he has 350 employees in 7 African nations.
Wow.
And he builds them homes with electricity and running water, and he lets them pay for the rest of their life on payroll deduction.
Wow.
So that's the ripple effect, Mike.
Yeah.
If you can be part of a ripple effect that winds up taking families from nothing to having food on the table and a place to live and a job, that's time you should be spending. And once I started feeling the ripple effect, in examples like that, and I'd go back and I'd see all these families again and their lives were completely different. I was like, okay, this is worth doing. This is time well spent.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And that really should be everybody's mission, right? To take what they have learned and to take what they've gleaned from their life experiences and pour into other people, right? To help them get to where they want to be. So let me ask you a question. How does that make you feel to see the success that this young man has had over these years?
It's just amazing. He picked me up one time when I went there. He picked me up, a BMW pulled up and I walked by it because I didn't think it was him.
Right.
And he got out in a suit from a BMW and he said, Jeff. And I turned around. He said, just walk right by me. I said, a little bit different than basically a motorcycle.
Just
right?
a little. Yeah.
And what's funny is he said, wait a minute, don't be mad at me. He said, you told me I have to look the part. He was in the process of selling a 25% of the company to the equivalent of Verizon in Africa, to the cell company. And he's like, I need to look like a professional CEO. I was laughing because I did tell him that.
Oh, wow.
But I was so stunned to see. But the important thing is the fact that he uses his money to build all those homes. And, you know, it takes them their lives to pay it back. It's not a mortgage. They make a payment out of every paycheck. It's amazing. Yeah. So that's what feels really good. And you're like, you know, the old adage of the 2 most important days, the day you were born and the day you find out why. That's how you found out why. Yeah. When you're walking and talking to these families, and you feel, even though it's his company, not mine, you sort of know in your heart that because you were there at that moment and invested that time in that person, they were able to make all this happen. Yeah. So it's a great feeling that you can't get from doing a deal and making money.
Right. I got you. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being here and being a part of this. I do want to ask you a question before we go.
Okay.
But I also want to acknowledge you. I want you to understand that when you got up on that stage, you rocked my world. And I'm literally starting a company this week from a need that I found. And part of it came from your speech, from your delivery. And I wanted you to know that you're an inspiration for me. And
Mike, thank you so much.
I'm so proud of everything that you're doing and everything you've done. So the final question for you is this: what's tomorrow look like?
For me, tomorrow is really about focusing on youth. Yeah. I've visited probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 schools in the last 2 weeks, from all the way down to preschool to middle school to high school to college. So I'm spending a lot of my days now focusing on youth and trying to prepare them. You know, if we look at all the craziness in the world, whether it's Israel and Gaza and Palestine, or Russia and Ukraine, preparing a next generation of heart-centered leaders that don't do these crazy things is important. So that's my next focus, is working with youth and developing more curriculum for youth so that we can help them prepare to be leaders that my generation wasn't.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I knew it'd be something amazing. I knew for a fact it would be.
Kids are. I posted something the other day. It's me sitting at a little tiny table with a bunch of 4-year-olds, and underneath it I wrote "Best meeting ever." Yeah. Because it was so much fun to hear their unbridled, unfiltered thoughts on the world from children.
Yeah, it's amazing what you'll hear.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing. Jeff, I can't thank you enough for being our guest on the Mike Litton Experience. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much for having me, and you got to keep me posted on that new company.
Absolutely, buddy. I appreciate you.
Thanks.
Thanks so much. We hope you enjoyed another episode of the Mike Litton Experience. If you did, do us a favor, smash that subscribe button, tell your friends, family, and coworkers about our program, and wherever you get your podcasts, please leave us a rating. It helps us to connect with quality people just like you.
And that's a wrap. Another episode of the Mike Litton Experience in the books. Reach out to Mike on Instagram at Litton Realty. Want to meet with Mike? Check out calendly.com/Rio760.